WWE fans, the tension between Oba Femi and Bron Breakker has been building for weeks, and on Monday Night Raw, it finally reached a completely different level. What made this confrontation stand out was not a huge physical altercation or an over-the-top exchange. It was the way Femi carried himself. He walked into the moment with the confidence of someone who genuinely believes he belongs at the top of WWE, while Breakker entered with something to prove. The difference between their mindsets became obvious almost immediately. Breakker wanted answers, and more importantly, he wanted recognition. He wanted Femi to acknowledge that he was not the only young star capable of becoming the future of WWE. Instead, the conversation turned into something much more personal. For Breakker, this was about respect. For Femi, it was about making it clear that he did not feel threatened. That contrast gave the segment an edge that made every word feel important. Neither man needed to rush into a physical confrontation, because the tension between them was already doing most of the work. The audience could feel that something was coming, and when Femi finally stepped into the situation, it became clear that this rivalry was no longer just about competition. It was about two ambitious superstars fighting for the same position in WWE and refusing to accept the idea that there is room for only one person at the top. Femi's rise changes the conversation. A major reason this rivalry feels so significant is the momentum Oba Femi has created for himself. His victory over Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam completely changed the way fans viewed him. Defeating a superstar with Lesnar's reputation is already a massive accomplishment, but the aftermath made the moment even bigger. Lesnar acknowledging Femi after their match gave the young powerhouse another level of credibility. Suddenly, Femi was not simply another talented prospect waiting for his opportunity. He was being presented as someone capable of standing on the biggest stage and delivering when the pressure was at its highest. That naturally creates tension when another young superstar believes he deserves the same recognition. Bron Breakker has spent a long time building his own reputation through intensity, athleticism, and sheer physical presence. He has the name, the confidence, and the ability to make an impact whenever he steps into the spotlight. The problem is that Femi's rise has changed the conversation. Instead of asking whether Breakker is the next major WWE star, fans are now debating which of these two men has the greater future ahead of him. That competition makes their rivalry feel much bigger than a standard weekly storyline. Both men are trying to establish themselves as the next generation of WWE's main event scene, and neither appears willing to take a step backward. Bron Breakker wants an answer. When Breakker came to the ring, his message was straightforward. He wanted to know who truly represented the future of WWE. It was the kind of question that sounded simple on the surface, but carried plenty of frustration underneath it. Breakker has watched other superstars receive attention, opportunities, and praise, and now he wanted to make sure nobody overlooked him. His confidence has always been one of his defining characteristics, but on this night, there was another emotion underneath that confidence: impatience. He did not want another vague response or another promise about what might happen someday. He wanted Femi standing across from him, answering the question directly. That is why the arrival of Paul Heyman made the moment even more interesting. Instead of immediately giving Breakker the confrontation he wanted, Heyman slowed everything down. He took Breakker's question and essentially turned it back toward him, asking who the future of WWE really was. It was a clever move because it forced Breakker to wait. For someone as intense and impulsive as Breakker, waiting may have been the hardest part. The more Heyman spoke, the more obvious it became that Breakker was not controlling the segment anymore. He had come out expecting to dictate the conversation, but suddenly, someone else was setting the pace. The handshake says more than words. Perhaps the most interesting visual from the entire segment came after the announcement. Heyman shook Breakker's hand, and then offered the same gesture to Femi, who accepted it. On the surface, it was simply a professional moment between people involved in the same situation. But in the context of the rivalry, the image carried much more weight. Breakker has a history with Heyman, so seeing Heyman acknowledge Femi in the same way created another layer to the story. It raised questions about where Heyman's loyalties truly lie and whether he sees something special in Femi. Wrestling fans naturally look for meaning in moments like this, and that handshake provided plenty to discuss. Was Heyman simply being professional, or was he subtly showing Breakker that Femi has earned his attention? Either way, Breakker had to stand there and watch it happen. That visual could become important later, especially if this rivalry continues to grow. Sometimes WWE does not need a dramatic announcement to create doubt. A simple gesture can accomplish the same thing. In this case, the handshake added another piece to the psychological battle between Breakker and Femi, and gave fans another reason to wonder what might happen next. September 6th becomes the big test. Now everything comes down to September 6th. The talking has established the personalities, the confrontation has created the tension, and the match gives both men the opportunity to prove their claims. For Breakker, this is a chance to remind everyone why he has been considered one of WWE's most promising young stars. He can walk into that match and turn all of Femi's confidence against him. For Femi, the challenge is completely different. He has already created enormous momentum, and now he needs to prove that his confidence is backed by real results. The most exciting part is that neither man needs to change who they are. Breakker can remain aggressive and intense, while Femi can continue carrying himself like the man who believes the spotlight belongs to him. That natural contrast is what makes this matchup so compelling. It is not simply about finding out who is stronger. It is about finding out who can handle the pressure when the expectations are at their highest. Whoever walks away with the victory will have a much stronger argument about being one of WWE's defining stars of the next generation. And after what happened on Raw, there is no question that both men have something to prove. The rivalry has only just begun. The biggest takeaway from this entire confrontation is that WWE has created a rivalry that feels like it could become much bigger than one match. Oba Femi and Bron Breakker represent two different versions of the same idea. Young, powerful stars trying to establish themselves at the highest level. Breakker wants the respect he believes he has earned, while Femi carries himself as though respect is already his. That difference in attitude is the foundation of a great wrestling rivalry. The September 6th match may provide the first major answer, but it probably will not answer every question. If anything, the result could create even more tension between them. A Breakker victory would give him the momentum he has been demanding, while a Femi victory would strengthen his claim that he really is the future he says he is. Either outcome gives WWE another chapter to work with. What happened on Raw was therefore more than just a heated conversation. It was the moment these two young stars stopped circling each other and finally made their competition official. Now the countdown has begun, and when they finally meet, the question will no longer be who thinks they are the future. The question will be who can actually prove it when it matters most.